So this is the new Dash 2 Max from Fnatic. This is one out of two pads that they have just recently released. Right when you get it, it comes in this tube rolled up. I'm actually a huge fan of this packaging as it is way more protective when compared to the flat styled boxes that we have seen before. Right out of the box, the first thing you're going to notice is this orange colorway that perfectly matches with the Fnatic branding. Personally, I am a huge fan of this color as it does separate itself from the other black mouse pads that we keep seeing. The pad does come in two sizes, a 480 by 400mm size, and then the version that I have here, which is the square 480 by 480mm size. So there is pretty much going to be an option for everyone. Just like most pads that are coming out these days, the quality on these mouse pads are top notch. Stitching is below the surface and is tight and consistent all around the pad, adding to the premium feel of the pad. One thing you won't find on other pads though is this base, which they are calling max foam. It's 6mm in thickness and the softness is around the soft, so it's not going to be too soft or too hard. It's just going to be right in the middle. You are pretty much getting two benefits from the softer base. First is the added comfort from the 6mm base, and second is the amount of friction you can get from pushing your mouse into the pad. On the good side of things, it's useful if you're aiming at something and you just need a bit more control. You can just push into your pad to gain that. On the bad side of things, if you are someone that pushes into their pad without acknowledging it, the pad can feel super inconsistent at times, as you are pushing in and out of the pad, therefore increasing and decreasing friction. This is also going to be way more noticeable while using dot skates. Most of the time I was either using J dot skates or the stock OP18K skates, and had a great experience with both. While dot skates do dig into the pad a bit more, it didn't really affect the performance of the surface that much, as the surface of the pad is a bit harder when compared to other cloth surfaces. The surface of the Dash 2 Max is quite smooth with a tiny bit of texture that I didn't find abrasive at all, and just gives off some feedback onto the mouse skates. On the Fnatic website and marketing material, this pad is being marketed as a speed pad. Before I start talking about the surface, let me start off by saying that this is so far from being a speed pad when we are comparing it to actual speed pads like the Lethal Gaming Gear Neptune Pro or the Infinity Mice Speed V2. The Dash 2 Max can be better categorized as a faster control pad. Depending on what skates you are using, the pad does give you a bit of a tuggy feeling when micro adjusting or doing small movements, but when doing long swipes or tracking, the pad has a control glide that does feel slow, but it doesn't feel like the pad is fighting back. The stopping power on this mouse pad is also pretty good. I never felt like I was over aiming or under aiming. It just stopped the mouse when I needed it to. I was mostly using this mouse pad in static games such as Valorant and CS2, and it was pretty good in those types of games. In heavy tracking games, I just felt like the pad was too slow at times, and I just preferred going back to other pads I preferred that were just a tiny bit faster. Where this mouse pad really surprised me is with target switching in Call of Duty. Jumping between two targets with this pad felt almost too easy, which is most likely due to the controlled initial friction with the faster dynamic friction, and just topping it off with the excellent stopping power that it has. A couple people in Japan have also expressed that this mousepad is pretty expensive for them, and the same thing can be said for me in Canada. The XL size for the Dash 2 Max comes out to around $124 with shipping. Even without shipping, this pad is around $90, which I think is just a bit too high for a mousepad like this. For $20 to $30 cheaper excluding shipping, I can pick up a Saturn Pro in the XL size, which to me is a better value, as you do have the choice of different softnesses for the base as well as the color. I personally think that the 6mm base on this mousepad is pretty much useless. While it might be nice for some people that like to have that soft feeling underneath their hand or wrist, it pretty much gives me the same experience I would find on an X-Soft pad with a 3 to 4mm base. It also adds to the manufacturing cost as there is more materials being used, and at the end of the day, the customer is paying for it with that high retail price. I do think this mousepad has a place on someone's desk, but for me it just isn't something that pops out and kind of fades into the crowd, especially with the high price point in certain regions.